the freedom that has come from not feeling like I've created this image, over the course of my life, and either, with it being wanting to be a yoga teacher or wanting to be, only good, happy thoughts or, only happy experiences. And the weight and this, at times throughout this, process, I would feel like I was suffocating. I wanted to open the yoga studio. I know I emailed you about this. I opened a yoga studio and it was a dream come true. And then all of a sudden I felt stifled, suffocated, and all the stories came up that I'm not there yet and I'm a phony because I still have these thoughts and these resentments or these judgments or, the lack of confidence. And I think the hard part and what I've realized is that when you have these glimpses of just pure joy, I want to hang on to it, and I feel it, and it's almost so overwhelming that it'll bring tears to my eyes. Like I get it. I feel, I can feel the oneness and I cling on to it. And then the next day something throws me off my rocker and I'm, flying off the hinges, lashing out at something or, so now back to, the freedom that I feel is that to allow everything, don't resist it. When I feel like this sense of rejection coming up or a sense of insecurity or a sense of lack, it's just allowing it to be right there. You're just aware of it. And I think the heart, that was such a difficult thing for me to grasp because it was just, I would try to correct a thought or I would try to correct a feeling like, so for instance, just if I were having some kind of a resentment towards somebody, as opposed to really wanting to acknowledge it, that I had this resentment or this judgment, it was like, oh, I need to exchange that for a loving thought about them. And so I was just constantly doing or efforting to correct or fix something because I didn't want to acknowledge like I was actually having an unpleasant thought or an unpleasant feeling. So, you touched on it and I wrote this down, something that kind of came to me is that, the healing is the investigation. And, it's just being in love. And that love is just the awareness there. It's being love, not doing love, I don't have to feel like I've got to do something to show that, oh, I really do love this person, or I really am okay with this situation. So, I'm grateful for this entire process. And I say process, but it's just this discovery. And so ultimately, just to kind of touch back on the closing of this, when I opened the studio, I immediately wanted to retreat. I wanted my freedom, my peace back, and not the stress of feeling like I was stuck in this routine. And so I sent an email out, to all my students, clients, and, posted on social media, thanking everyone for their support and, but that I was closing the studio. And it came down to me teaching my last couple of classes, but it was after week 7 when I really worked that, what a super abundant life looks like for me, that it was like the revelations and the ahas that came from that were just like, oh my gosh, it brought me right back to what my why was in the first place and why I wanted this studio and why what it was that I ultimately wanted to do with that space. And so I taught these last few classes, or what were supposed to be the last few classes, and I thought, I don't want to close. So I then thinking like, I may sound crazy, but I'm going to just go ahead and send the email out and post again on social media, like, never mind, and kind of went through but that email, that I sent and what I posted saying I was actually going to stay open, all of that came from the ahas, the revelations, the writing exercises, and the 3 questions that, we went through with that with that exercise. I believe it was week 7. And I'd never done this before, but I actually wrote a business plan. I didn't do that initially when I first opened the studio, and it just gave so much clarity and insight on where it was that I actually wanted to do with this space. And yeah, so I just wanted to share that. What an just the amount of freedom that has come from all of this, and just allowing, everything to arise, noticing the sensations, the feelings, and just all of that. So, and it's not saying like I can't have a feeling or a charge about something, just because that would, fear of sabotaging this image that I've created of this perfect, you can't have anything unpleasant arise.
That's so awesome. Thank you so much, Rachel, for that. Yeah, and I just want to encourage anyone who is still here in the Healing Cure and wants to just go back, kind of look at, week 2, especially in week 7, where these little, workshops are. Because to me, that's the important part, is where we begin to like experiment, which is what you did. You followed your passion. You opened the yoga studio. You immediately felt, like I'm losing my freedom. Here we are in a routine. I didn't actually want this. And then you stay with it. Because see, that's the problem most spiritual seekers have, which was my problem, was I thought I'm supposed to be happy all the time. I'm just supposed to always be in bliss, and everything's supposed to be like, like A Course in Miracles says, like being lifted down a summer path, and it's like, yes, but it's not like that. It's different. It's so different. Like the joy of just allowing everything to be as it is, the emotions, the disappointment, the frustration, it's all just arising in this perfect, open, luminous space that I am. It's just, these aren't my thoughts. They're not my thoughts. I'm a failure. I don't know what I'm doing. Whatever the thought may be. The planning. What will people think? It's just thoughts that are arising, and the feelings that come with the thoughts, because they're deeply connected. You start to actually feel sick. You start to feel it in your stomach. You feel like this tightening, and then the freedom you feel when you let go of the plan, which is what you did. You said, I'm going to shut. So when you did that, see, that's actually one of the clues, is you surrendered Rachel's plan for that yoga studio. And that is the key to stop holding on to whatever, because that's the ego gets in there. It just does. Like, it's just naturally like, ooh, Rachel's going to do something spiritual and service oriented. Here we go. You guys ready? Gets right in there. And now you're working hard, you're efforting, you're trying to make it look good on Instagram, you got to pay the rent. I know all about this. I know what it takes to run a business. It's not easy. It takes money. It takes something, and it is a roller coaster, up and down. And so, but when you surrender and you say, I don't know what this is for, and I'm willing to let it all go. And that's the same with healing of the body. Whenever someone gets to the point where they're ready to let it all go, even the body, that's when healing happens. But when we're trying to hold on to the body, I want the body to be healthy. I want to get rid of pain. There's still an I in there that has an agenda. But when you actually and what does A Course in Miracles say about it? I love it. It says, one instant of love without attack is all that's needed. So you don't need these long instances of meditation. You need one instant of love without attack, where you just love that you did it. I love that I opened that yoga studio. I love that I did that. I love that I have the courage to shut it down. I'm not attacking myself. I love it. What a beautiful life. What a beautiful life that I found this beautiful space and I did it. The ego can't survive in a space like that. Just the ego literally can't exist. So you have to be, the awareness piece is so necessary that at every step of the way we see that ego activity gets in there again. Like it has a plan. This will work. This is what we're doing now. This will make money. And it's not that you won't follow those ideas, but you got to see where you start to you're holding on to them now. It's my idea. This is the plan. And now it's like the universe can use Rachel. It can use that space. It's because it's like Rachel doesn't care if it stays open or if it doesn't. The consciousness knows this now. And that's the freedom you're looking for. That's the healing. That's where it's like a life that is totally free.